Welcome, everybody. Today is our top 5 reasons why you should not pay your taxes. Number 5 is obvious. Congress is fiscally irresponsible. So what do I mean by that? Here we have a few examples of that in just this latest omnibus bill. That's all they do is omnibus bills. No way any of them read it. I doubt half of them could even read at the comprehension level required to read one of these bills. But I read this bill, and wow, it's a doozy. So we're going to list some of the examples here. We're spending money on cryogenically frozen embryos, border fences for Jordan. We're even spending money on a railroad system on the frickin' moon. Number 4, your money is used to corrupt your children. Look at all the DEI crap, what was that, 1619 project. What was the other crap they did? Teaching all the white kids that they're racist. All that stuff, the gay stuff, the grooming stuff. All the little weird liberal white women teaching little Jimmy that because he feels weird in puberty, he's probably a girl and he should chop his pee-pee off. Or little Susie should get a breast removal, not even a reduction, get a breast removal and change her name to Dan and start dating other women and try to play on the basketball team. Or as we saw, I think it was today or maybe it was yesterday. It was viral today for sure. That man beating all those poor little high school girls by like 3 or 4 or 500 feet in track. But that same exact time, if he would have competed with the men, and he says he's a shit, fuck you. If he would have competed with the men, he would have been like 64th. So they're using all that to corrupt your children. Oh, and they sent like 6 or 7. Here, let me get my little notes here, right here, my little handy dandy notebook here. It's the next page here. It's the other next page here. Sorry, I got lots of pages because there's lots of pages that they wrote here. Did I even write it down? Oh, it's right there. It was right there on the page I looked at first. They get $3.3 billion for higher education. At least what I found, skimming through this thing. They get $3.3 billion for higher education to turn out a bunch of liberal douchebags that don't know up from down, left from right, penis from vagina. They don't know any of it. And then they're going to sit here and be this large voting bloc and go tell you that you're an old piece of crap. No, I'm 32 years old. As far as I'm concerned, I haven't even got my piece of the pie yet. I'm still working for that. You little dirtbag 20-year-olds that don't know Adam, that don't know Eve, they don't know nothing, you can take a hike. Because I'll tell you right now, Gen Zers, you little Zoomer turds, eat a dick. Me and the millennials are taking back to society. We're done. We're not ceding it to you. You've been brainwashed by a bunch of dirtbags. We're getting off of the point here. $3.3 billion to make your children gay and hate America. There you go. Number 3, your money always goes to fund both sides of the war. What am I saying? You've all seen the meme the last couple of days. Shows the missiles coming up from Iran and then the defense missiles coming up from Zion, Israel. It's called Zion. It's not Israel. Anyway, it's coming up from Zion. And the one caption says over here over the Iranian missiles, U.S. tax dollars. And then over here over the Zion defense missiles, it says somehow also U.S. tax dollars. I'll put it on screen for you. That's the whole point. Fast and the Furious, all these deals. We left, $70 billion, $80 billion of equipment in Iran or in Iraq when we left Al-Qaeda there to have it all, and we got that poor sweet soldier killed. Oh, actually, a few of them, We got a few of our boys and girls killed over there because, we have incompetent leadership, right? So they get all those monies. 9/11, we just misplaced a couple $1 trillion. Ooh, and 9/10, excuse me. And then 9/11 happens and burns the building down with all the records. But here we are funding all sides of the war, every war, and then we're getting the shaft. We're always getting the shaft. And guess what? They ask you to pay more. So that's number 3, funding both sides of the war. Number 2, all of your money is used to destroy you and your country. What am I saying? Look at just recently, the last couple of days, FISA being renewed, even though it was like 70 or 80% of Americans said get a warrant, which is the Constitution, but they don't listen to you. Taxation without representation is exactly what's going on. These dirtbags in Washington could give a flying giant pig fuck about you. They don't care about you at all. You know what they care about? Well, You don't have to talk about it, but it starts with a Z and ends with an ion, right? That's all they care about. I mean, look at all these. Look at that one dirtbag. I forget his name. I don't want to get his name wrong. I don't want to call out somebody who it isn't. I'll put him on the screen here in post. But this dirtbag goes in an IDF uniform to Congress, right? And I know I'm harping on Zion right now, but that's because it's what's going on. But it's not just that. It's everything. They don't care. They've got your borders open. They're using your taxpayer dollars to fly literal terrorists and criminals into your cities, into the interior of your country. And yes, I'm talking to you, Mr. Greg Abbott, because that's what you like to do. And Mr. Ron DeSantis, right? You do the same shit. And it was funny the first time. Okay, cool. Do it once, right? Make a big statement. Fly to these places that want it. But when you continue to do it, that means you're just participating in the tyranny. So you're a traitor. Greg Abbott, I don't care what you're doing in Texas. You're a traitor. You're going to be going up on trial just like the rest of these turds. And that's what has to happen. So number 2 is they're destroying your damn country and they're taking everything from you. They're taking all your money. They're taking everything, giving it to a bunch of criminals and a bunch of military-age men to house them in your community centers that your children don't even get to go to anymore. All the parks that we built with our money, all the community centers, all the recreational areas, all the schools, our literal schools to educate our future is being taken up by a bunch of scum that decided that they wanted to come to a country and leech off of the system. And you can say what you want about coming here for a better life, blah, blah. I don't give a shit. Right? They're playing ads down in South America. Come to America, you'll get everything for free. I've been down to the El Paso border. I've seen it. It's not families. There's dumpsters full of children's toys and underwear, but it's a bunch of military-age men that, guess what? I'm going to have to fight them. Not you, you stupid-ass liberals. Not you, you women. Not you, you feely-good idiots. Not you, you noodle-arm leftists. Me. The reason number 1 why you should not pay your taxes is the 16th Amendment is not only unconstitutional, it fundamentally destroys the balance of power sought out in the Constitution. It fundamentally changes the original contract that is the Constitution to something entirely different. You cannot amend the words in the Constitution. An amendment doesn't mean changing that. Amendment means adding. So, for instance, women's suffrage, granted the right to vote doesn't exist, men or women, but women's suffrage, you can add that. You can add the right to vote onto the Constitution because it's not specifically mentioned in the Constitution, right? But as far as changing the actual contract that everybody signed on to, you can't fucking do that. You have to write a new document. So the 16th Amendment is unconstitutional for many, many reasons. And before I get into those reasons, you need to check this out here, right? Investigating the federal income tax, right? Let me see right there. Joseph R. Bannister. So he's a former special agent, and you have to donate. You donate to his cause, and you can get this book. You go to www.agentfortruth.com. www.agentfortruth.com, right? And you can go pick up this book. It's not that long. It's very informative, okay? And it talks all about why the Constitution, why the 16th Amendment is unconstitutional. And so I'm going to read the table of contents here because obviously I can't get into everything and I'm not trying to take up your whole day. So I'm going to read the table of contents here, and then I'm going to go over why constitutionally it's not constitutional. So here we go. So it comes in like a 3-part thing. We've got allegation 1, allegation 2, and allegation 3. So filing federal income tax returns and paying federal income tax is voluntary, not mandatory. Did you hear that? Filing federal income tax returns and paying federal income tax is voluntary, not mandatory. Okay? So then we're going to go, these are allegations, they're not really chapters. These are just points, right? So the next point is the federal income tax is voluntary, and so that's the whole point there. Why the repeated use of the word voluntary? So let me actually go to that. That's on page 15. I know I'm making it hard to understand here because I'm not trying to do something super produced right now. I'm trying to do like a semi-live thing here. So here on page 15 it says, "Is the federal income tax voluntary?" Conklin provided other information that expanded on Kidd's allegation that the federal income tax system is voluntary as opposed to mandatory. Conklin's analysis was so compelling that it prompted me to conduct my own personal investigation. This is the man that wrote the book, right? Conklin pointed out a number of examples that contained in actual IRS documents that show that the IRS does continually refer to the federal income tax system as voluntary. Despite 5 years spent working for the IRS and 8 years complying with the income tax law, I never realized how much the IRS used the word voluntary when referring to the federal income tax and the filing of returns. Conklin sent me a copy of the portions of the Internal Revenue Manual, the IRM, that he received via a Freedom of Information Act, a FOIA request. Notice the use of the word voluntary in the following IRM passages and see for yourself. So here we've got 3 passages from this IRM, right? We've got section 4022.25, place and time for appearance. 3. When a person indicates he or she will voluntarily comply, but requests that he or she be served with a summons as evidence of his or her legal duty to produce records or testify. Emphasis added in parentheses. Then the second one. Section 5535.4B. BMF accounts. I don't know what that is. These are just... you're not going to be able to fucking see that. Number 1, advise taxpayers that the returns may be processed under IRC 6020B if not filed voluntarily. Emphasis added. And then the third one here, section 4022.41, number 2, notwithstanding the privilege against self-incrimination, information or evidence furnished voluntarily by a person summoned may be used even though of an incriminatory nature. Emphasis added. I don't know. It sounds retarded to me. Well, the wording of it, not the premise of it. Maybe I'm probably just retarded, honestly. Let me get back to actually reading the chapter. So that's what they're talking about voluntarily. So here's the rest of this. The evolution of our contemporary federal tax systems, withholdings, filing of federal income tax returns, blah, blah, assessment and liability for federal taxes, collection of the federal income taxes. So those are all the sections in Allegation 1. Allegation 2, the 16th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution was never ratified. So that's actually kind of a big one here. And besides this book here, I've read a few other places where that wasn't actually ratified. So to get an amendment to the Constitution, you need 3/4 of the state legislatures to ratify an amendment. And that never happened. And he goes into quite a good bit of detail about that. Constitutional requirements, the constitutionality of various taxes. I'll get into that in a moment. And then the 16th Amendment, blah, blah, blah. And then the third allegation, the U.S. government finances its operations with unconstitutional creations of fiat money. So you can't create fiat money, which is what we operate. You have to have a gold-backed currency. Anything else is treason. But it's not treason because, another side note, the United States is a corporation. It's not a constitutional republic. It used to be a constitutional republic until the war against the Constitution in 1860, also known as the Civil War. Lincoln was a tyrant. Neither side was right. It had nothing to do with slavery. It had everything to do with states' rights. Another side note, slavery was supposed to be gotten rid of 20 years after the ratification of the Constitution. It was all agreed upon, but of course, business is business and people don't care about rights and things like that. So that's a whole nother jumbled issue. But the problem with that is after the Civil War, we became, instead of United States of America, so we're not a country. This is not a fucking country. This is a union. A union of nation states, not a country. We're not a country. We're much like Europe. In fact, the European Union model is more accurate to what we're supposed to be, not in terms of their laws and any of that garbage. I'm just specifically saying the individual nations coming together as a union, but they're still individually sovereign and recognized as their own nations. That is more closely related to what we are supposed to be than what we are now, where we're actually like our own little divided governing areas under this large entity called the United States of America. The United States of America. That made it a country. It's actually a corporation. That's why the Constitution doesn't matter. That's why DC exists. That's why these assholes get away with murder. because they're not operating under the Constitution. They're operating under the corporation, blah, blah, blah. So that could be another bonus reason not to pay taxes, is you're actually not paying taxes to the United States of America, or to United States of America, to a constitutional federal government. You're paying taxes to a bunch of assholes that lie to you every day. So moving on. Well, actually, we're done here. So get this book. Again, you want to go to www.agentfortruth, FOR, agent for truth. There we go. Agentfortruth.com. And you get this, Investigating the Federal Income Tax, a Report to the American People by Joseph R. Bannister. So there's all sorts of reasons not to pay income tax there. I don't pay income tax, and I never will again eat a big old darkie. All right? So here's the deal here, and here's why it's unconstitutional, besides the fact that it was never ratified. So this is how this country was set up. All spending comes out of the Senate, right? The Senate is the state's equal representation in Congress. Congress is mistaken for being Congress and the Senate. No. It's the House of Representatives and the Senate. And together, under that roof, they form Congress, right? So Congress is the people's representation and the state's representation in the federal government, which is the legislative powerhouse, right? Based on the people's power. So all spending bills and all taxation bills must constitutionally originate inside the Senate, right? Why? Because the individual is not first of all, the individual is not a citizen of the United States. Citizens of the United States are not free men. They are a number. See, you are a national, not a sovereign, a sovereign citizen. That's an oxymoron. You can't be sovereign and be a citizen. You're either a sovereign or a citizen, or sovereigns are royalty or whatever the fuck, and citizens are the slave people. You have this third thing here called a national. Now, that is what we truly are, right? We are nationals. So why does that matter? Well, all spending and taxation originates out of the Senate. Why? Because the states are supposed to pay taxes to the federal government as a membership fee, essentially. So the states, being responsible for collecting the tax money or the funds or however they get, they don't have to tax. The state could have its own industry. The state could sell something. The state could sell energy. The state could sell mining rights. The state could sell water. The state could sell fucking popcorn to pay its debt to the federal government or its membership fee to the federal government. It's up to the state to figure out how to generate that revenue. And then it's up to the federal government per the equal representation of the states, because each state gets two senators equally, right, regardless of your population, because it's not about the population. It's and there was another bill, the Democratic Socialists of America, and I'm going to go off a little bit here. They want to get rid of the Senate, and they want to institute a more representative body that more represents the people in Congress. If you uttered that in seriousness or wrote that in seriousness, you just need to be slapped a lot because you're dumb or the enemy. You're trying to subvert us or not. That's called the House of Representatives. Now, that doesn't represent us either, because it's supposed to be one representative for every 30,000 citizens, every 30,000 individuals that reside in the borders of your state. Every 30,000 of you are supposed to get one representative. What do we have right now? We get, I think, one for like 768,000, right? So one for every 768,000. So that's already out the window. Then, so this is how they usurp everything. All taxes and spending is supposed to come out of the Senate. How are your senators supposed to be elected? Not by the popular vote, that's for damn sure, because every Tom, Dick... The right to vote doesn't exist. It wasn't enumerated in the Constitution because the founders recognized that not everybody is a contributing, participating member of the society. Not everybody cares, and not everybody deserves a voice. You can earn a voice. I don't know how they thought about that. But you can earn a voice, but you don't get to vote just by virtue of being born. That's ridiculous because there's so many dumbasses that don't understand anything. In fact, that's how they get around all the constitutional protections, is because of the idiots, right? That's how they got this 16th Amendment in, Woodrow Wilson, scum of the earth, right? And so you're not supposed to be able to vote for your senators. Why? The state legislators are supposed to vote for the senators, the people that actually give a shit. Right? They're supposed to vote for the senators. You vote for your legislator. You and your buddies in whatever district that your state decides have a voice and get this representation. You vote for that person into your state legislature, and then your state legislature elects those people, right? And I forget which amendment it is. Is it the 12th or 14th? Not the 14th. One of those fucking. Maybe it's the 16th too. I'm all jumbled up right now. But that actually changed it. So they actually changed the fundamental power structure against the ignorant American people, taking away the states' rights, the nation state's sovereignty, removed that and gave it to a bunch of numbskulls that they just will now railroad you into voting whatever way they want, or just steal your vote because you can't be bothered to pay attention more than every 4 years, right? And so they took away the state's sovereignty. Each state lost its sovereignty when the people started electing its senators, because that's the state's power to put in Congress. The people get to elect a representative. And why does this all matter? Because the federal government is not supposed to have as much power as it does. It has no authority for the power it takes. Power and authority are different. It has the power. The government right now can do a lot of things it's not supposed to. It has the power, right? But it doesn't have the authority. It doesn't have the constitutional authority to have that happen. So what needs to happen is we need to stop funding this unconstitutional, unrepresented federal government with a little f. We need to ignore it. We need to remove every single elected official in every single one of our state governments. And if we can't do that, the American patriots, the constitutionalists, not the GOP, not the libertarians, not any of those asswipes, not any of you partisan turd faces, real red-blooded constitutional Americans need to form constitutional legislatures that ignore every amendment past the 10th Amendment. Clean slate. Most of them are redundant anyway, but all they do is usurp your power. You don't need the 14th Amendment. It already exists in the form of the Declaration of Independence. Whoa, that's not the document that found. It's the fucking document that they wrote the Constitution with. So yes, it is as valuable as law as the Constitution. We need to stop funding these people. We need to start ignoring them before they get us into a war. They don't give a shit about you. Follow us on Twitter at RealLMSN.